Okay guys, so this is going to be a splice video of me roasting some coffee here. I've got my Franken roaster set up. Got my computer here with a countdown timer to time the roast. And over here is my cooling station, if you will. And there's my coffee. And what this coffee is, I call it my FrankenBlend. It's a blend of Guatemala, Ethiopia, and Honduras beans. So let's go ahead and load up the Franken roaster. So basically just pour the beans in like that right there. And I smooth them out. And as you can see, my thermocouple down there is completely covered up with beans. And we are ready to get started. So let's close the lid. Let's put the heat gun in. Let's fire up power on the thermometer. And let's go ahead and start the beans agitating. And let's see here. This will go ahead and start the timer and turn the power on. And literally, it's just as simple as that. And so now what I'm going to do is just monitor my heat and progress through the roast. So I'll bring you back when I make my first heat adjustment and explain a little bit about why I'm doing what I'm doing on that. Okay? Okay, so we're coming up on 160 degrees Celsius. We're around the 6-minute mark. And as soon as this guy hits 160, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my first heat adjustment to slow the roast down a little bit. You can see the environmental temperature is around 400 degrees here, and we just hit 160. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to switch to variable mode and adjust my heat down just a little bit. Okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to slow down the progression of the roast during the browning phase of the roast. And I can smell the beans roasting right now. So this is progressing very well. About 7 minutes in, we're going to let this progress, and I'll make my second heat adjustment at around 185. Okay, here we are, around 183.5. We're roughly 9 minutes into the roast, and it just hit 185. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my second heat adjustment by turning the heat down just a tad there. And what I want to happen is I want it to slowly progress, the heat to slowly progress to first crack. And so when first crack rolls around, I will turn on the recorder again, show you where we're at, holding steady at around 400 degrees in the environment, and slowly progressing the roast, step or two per minute, all right? Bring you back whenever we get into first crack. Okay, so on my roaster around 204, start getting in the first crack. Just heard one pop. Yep, there we go. So now we are entering the first crack, and we're around 12 minutes, 45 seconds. So we will let this guy coast to about 216. And then I'll dump the roast and chill the beans and bring you back shortly. Okay, so we've dumped the roast, and I've got it cooling down now over my tornado fan. I'm trying to do this with one hand without spilling the beans, but I can already feel them cooling down to the touch. So basically what you want to do is just swirl the beans over a fan like this to just cool them down. It's already cooling quite a bit. We hit the 216 temperature target. You can see that the beans are dark roasted. There's no oil, which is exactly the way I want them. And one thing about this process is it does produce chaff, and some of the chaff gets down in the beans. So I find that blowing it off with the fan really helps a lot. Yeah, there we go. Continue to cool the beans, and I'll bring you back once I'm done with that. So there we go. Got this coffee under bright light here so that you can see how the roast ended up. And this is about how I like to roast my coffees, about this dark. There's no oil that's breaking through on the bean. All beans progress through first crack. Give them a little bit more time to develop. And this roast actually smells really good. And that's one thing that I've learned, is that if your roast smells good after a roast, that's usually a good sign. Okay? Alright, well there we go. FrankenBlend roasted in the Franken roaster. And yeah, now it's time to enjoy this coffee.